Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our August 3rd, 2021 work session. Up first, we have proposed city code amendment for the Hagerstown Loan Review Authority. Ashley Newcomer and Jonathan Kearns.
Good afternoon. So joining me today is Ashley Newcomer, our Business Community Development Finance Specialist in Department of Community and Economic Development, and Randy Catlett, who's been a member of our Hagerstown Loan Review Authority, I think dating back to even when it was previously known as the Hagerstown Redevelopment Authority in the 90s. So glad to have Randy here with us today. And Ashley's going to talk briefly about the HLRA, what they do, and then the reasoning for this change. And then Randy has any background knowledge, if there's any questions on what the HLRA does and how they handle their processes. So, Ashley?
Certainly. Our Hagerstown Loan Review Authority is very important. They are responsible for reviewing our loan requests that are both community and business-related community development block grant, as well as our business revolving loans. They review requests anywhere from $10,000 to $200,000, and so it's important that they have expertise in banking and lending, financial management, accounting, and unfortunately, up until then, there's nothing in the city code to really specify that we need that type of skill set or background. Now, luckily, by practice, our committee is currently composed of people that meet the requirements, and so we've been very blessed there. And of course, Randy here has been wonderful. He has been on our Hagerstown Loan Review Authority for over 30 years, and he's our chair. I don't know how many years specifically as chairman, but as many as I can remember, he's been our chairman. And we just wanted to update the code. It's similar to the Board of Code Appeals and the Historic District Commission. We just wanted to have it specifically stated that there are certain fields that are required for these positions. So, Randy, if you'd like to speak any, we'd be glad to hear.
I think you did a good job, yes. As in the requirements when the applicants make application for funds, there's definitive things that you have to do, and it goes the same for the people who are making those decisions. We need people with a background in banking, loans, real estate, finance, and up until making this request before, it was just a matter of someone applying to be a member of the committee, and we wouldn't ask those questions. Fortunately, when I came aboard 30 years ago, I was asked that question in my career, was in banking and loans and mortgage banking. But since that period of time, we've been very fortunate that the people that I've served with have had that background. And but there's nothing to prevent anyone else from coming along. Same thing when someone makes an application for a loan. We have criteria you have to meet. You don't want decisions being made by people who lack the criteria on their own behalf. So.
Yes. I think it makes complete sense.
So, as Ashley mentioned, by practice for many years, and the mayor and city council ultimately would appoint those members, but we've always tried to make sure they've had the qualifications necessary, and it's just maybe overdue, but it's just simply adding one section of sentences or section 1064, as we noted in the memo, as drafted by the city attorney to make that a more formal qualification.
Yeah. You guys good with that?
Yes.
Randy, thank you for your service for
Yes.
30 years, but also for your service to our country.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Quite welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
You'll have a great day.
Thank you.
The air
Huh?
just felt like it turned Arctic.
Yeah, it did. Up next, we have the proposed amendment to land management code for breweries. Megan.
Hello, everyone. So we're here to discuss the Planning Commission's recommendation to the Mayor and Council for proposed text amendments to the brewery section of the code. Essentially, we're increasing square footage allowed from 15,000 square feet to 25,000 square feet, and then allowing them by special exception in CCMU and C zoning districts and for industrial buildings built before October 1st, 1956 by special exception in CG, POM, IR, and IG zoning. So we'll continue to allow them by right at 15,000 square feet in CCMU and C zoning districts, and then we will also remove the prohibitions on outdoor speaker systems. At the Planning Commission public review meeting, we didn't have any public input, but we do have support from DCED staff for this recommendation.
I'm okay with it.
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
All right, proposed development at Harrison Track at 1527 Howell Road. Okay. Hi, Doug.
Hello.
Hi, Rodney.
We're here to review what's going to be known as the Kerwood Hagerstown Logistics Center located at 1527 Howell Road. Joining us here shortly, we're hoping to have Fred Frederick from FSA to represent the developer. Let me give you some background on the proposed development that will be occurring. Harris Lopato with Curated Development Group and David Strauss with Birchwood Capital Partnership have formed a joint venture for this development for a proposed 1.9 million square feet of industrial Class A warehousing space. The development's expected to be built on speculation, possibly build to suit depending on tenants as they come forward. As a result, we're expected to see an investment level of $140 million in this development and up to 2,200 jobs. I'll mention, though, that it is speculative, so it depends on the tenant as they come about. I do have some slides for us to review. The request from the developer relates to the comprehensive plan and transportation-related needs for the site. We do have a few slides to review here. So I'm going to ask Rodney to give me a little bit of assist as we hopefully see Fred here in a minute. But the concern is our Paul Smith Boulevard as it runs through the Harrison Track land on Howell Road. And if we turn our attentions to the map here, let me see if I can outline the area here that we're talking about. It's this section just north of Edgewood that cuts through the property up to Howell Road. This off here. The 2 points of consideration as far as development occurs, and Rodney can speak a little bit more to this, is the development that occurred in the county on the north side of the development and the south side of the development. And I've got some slides we can jump to. Here's the concept of the proposed development, which includes that 1.9 million square feet. On the top side of your screen, you can see Howell Road. On the right-hand side of your screen, you can see Edgewood Drive. And this is the Mount Etna intersection. Ronnie, you want to talk about this?
Ronnie, why don't you stand up there and do a little demonstration of where our Paul Smith was originally gonna go and what we're getting rid of and.
So 15 years ago, we were getting ready to widen Edgewood and 40 the way it is today. And state, the county, and I had to sit down and figure out what we're gonna do when all this other land wants to develop. So the idea was that we would create a road that would start here on the dual highway at Mount Etna, would loop down across Edgewood, across Heb Road, and down to alternate 40 south of Funkstown. And it would build a redundant network of roads in there. And the idea was to take some of the pressure off Edgewood at 40. So that's when the concept came together of having this connector road, and it wound up being in the comp plan. Unfortunately, it wasn't followed through, not on our end, but by some of our partners, and they allowed two major developments to happen that kind of blocks that from happening now. One is right here at Mount Etna Road. There was duplexes built in here that, and some commercial development that's really diminished the opportunity of going through there now. And at the other end, there was farms that were annexed into Funkstown that are now under construction that we didn't have the opportunity to have any say in, and the road would go right through that as it goes down to alternate 40. So that's pretty much eliminated the opportunity for the through road. So with both ends being compromised. I think what's before you tonight is whether or not, thank you. So basically what we're talking about is up here at Mount Etna Road on Route 40, Edgewood Drive, Heb Road. So the proposed road would do something like this. But this area in here now is that subdivision that was just up on the screen. Up here is where the condo, or the duplex and the commercial development happened. So the road really can't function as it was originally envisioned. So what's before you tonight is eliminating the portion of it that goes through this site of the warehouse, the part that goes from Howe Road to Edgewood, but keeping the part that goes, this part has already been built. It's called Paul Smith Boulevard. It comes down here and stops. But it's going to be a condition of that warehouse development that they build this extension out to the dual highway, create a new intersection out here that will take some pressure off of this intersection, especially the tractor trailers coming off 70 and doing this. And then also it sets it up for future development of the farm over here that is set there because it never had good access to the dual highway. So it seems like it's still good planning, I think, to have this road occur, even if we can't accomplish what was originally envisioned 15 years ago. Hopefully that's helpful.
So what we're proposing is to come back next week at a special session, and we've got a draft motion in the packet that was included to remove the requirement for the Howe Road to Edgewood for our Paul Smith Boulevard from the comprehensive plan at the next available opportunity to amend it, and to allow any site plan associated with the development of Harrison Tract not have the requirement for the right-of-way access for Paul Smith Boulevard.
So, I mean, I think that, Rodney, when you demonstrate that, at least for me, being around for some time, I don't think that the connection at 40 and Mount Etna, I mean, I think that that was unrealistic that the county and state were going to acquiesce to that, you know, outside of Fox Share Plaza when that additional structure was built.
Yeah, I mean, they had the kind of the odd
Yeah.
alignment there, and the dream was that that would all be realigned as, you know, a normal 90-degree intersection.
Yeah, and then when they allowed that, the one structure to be built, it kind
Right,
of
that
torpedoed all of
Pretty
it.
much, yeah.
And that's the one, the residential structure on the east side of the Dunkin' Donuts there, right?
Yeah, and the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. And so, on the other end though, and I wanna, you know, and I think I had said this to you in the email, and I think I said it, you know, in additional setting, was the way that I understood it was, and I just used North Point as the example, I believe that it was said that we can expect an estimated 1,200 large trucks a day once that full build-out occurs, right? And the truck traffic for that is generating the necessity for about $8 million of investment in dualizing their ingress and egress toward Halfway Boulevard to 81, right?
Well, dualizing and constructing a pavement that can handle that much
Right.
traffic. So it's still mostly going to be a one through lane in each direction, but there's a lot of turn lanes for all these slow-moving trucks that are going in and out of there, and additional traffic signals.
And, I mean, I'm just gonna say it again, when you look at the east side of where, and I don't know comparatively what the envisioned number is, like how many, whether it's 1,000 trucks a day, or are we envisioning 2,000 trucks a day? I mean,
It could be upwards of 2,000 for this.
so almost twice as many trucks, I have to put it in that context, are going to be driving on a single lane road versus the $8 million that government, by and large, you know, say for participation by that specific private developer of North Point, is going to be using 4 lanes plus turning lanes. And I guess, for me, I mean, I keep going back to you know, Eastern Boulevard, and think about Eastern Boulevard, where Eastern Boulevard, where we've dualized that over time, but then as soon as you hit that point where it's not, you know, it's single lane, you know, you have that issue, and that doesn't even have truck traffic. I mean, that's just residential traffic using that as a bypass, basically, so it doesn't have to come further in the dual to get to the north end. And then you think about the development in this end, and maybe Funkstown doesn't care, maybe the county doesn't care, you know, and maybe at the end of the day, we'll just say, well, we'll make that happen 10 years from now when it's all messed up and government's gotta come in and fix it. I don't have that mindset. I don't think that we should have that mindset when we deal with development, especially of this magnitude. And especially when we know the numbers out of the gate, and we know the transportation pattern out of the gate, and we know that the volume of land mass, because I don't think any one of us are gonna sit here and go, the next guy in the door wants to build a gas station. We're gonna make him, you know, pay to dualize, and the next guy in the door is gonna build, you know, a hotel, and the next guy, I mean, you got probably 200 acres of developable property, through this stretch. No one's going to make that single person after this one dualize our Paul Smith. This is the biggest item, and for me, I'd rather do it now while what we're dealing with is undeveloped, infrastructureless, greenfield grass, than come back later, 10 years from now, after everything's built, and now we've got to move water and sewer lines, we've got to move curb lines, we've got to move lights and infrastructure, we've got to move electric utility boxes and telecommunication lines, and that will double the cost of the project, that we're not gonna go back then and tell these other 200 or 300 acres worth of additional development that's happened, you've got to pony up. We're gonna pony up 75% of it, and we're gonna figure out a way to, like, you know, get development to kick in, you know, some pittance of it. And that to me is not the way that I would go about making sure that we do it in the proper time frame and at the proper cost allocation. I'd rather just build it, understanding that it's gonna happen anyway, you know, that additional 2 lanes, come up with some formula, and every guy in the door, so to speak, of the 200 or 300 acres that develops after that, just like water and sewer utilities in some cases, pays a front footage connection fee, and they kick in some money, which is what we tried to do backwards when we dualized Eastern Boulevard. We went through and we said, okay, we're gonna create a special
That's right.
taxing district, but everything was already built. So, you know, we had to sort of go back through and say, now this portion's gonna be yours. I'd rather just do that out of the gate here, build the road for half the cost, so it isn't 12.2 million, which is what it cost us to dualize Edgewood, and the dual highway, and whatever's on the north side of that, Robinwood. Right, that was 12.2 million bucks. The city kicked in 1.8 million, just in city tax money, and then the taxpayers for the city kicked in an additional like 900,000 of the portion that the county kicked in. And that was the state coming through to the table with 6 million bucks. And so, for me, that is part and parcel of what has to happen here to make sure that that functions. I get it, the developer's gonna have to do some major upgrades to 40. That's the cost of the business. You're connecting to a state road. You can expect that's not going to be cheap.
Right.
But for me, I shouldn't say, well, they're kicking in a bunch of money for this state road intersection, so we're gonna let them, you know, pass on the money that we'd otherwise be asking them to dualize our roads and fix our intersections. If they weren't doing that, we'd probably be asking that because we wouldn't see it as such an unfair allocation of
As long as we
responsibility.
can justify it, right?
And so I just think there's gotta be a way that we can come up with that number and do it.
Yeah, so I guess if I maybe take what you said, for like the outbound traffic, if there was 2 lanes, which is what you're suggesting, 2 lanes up, and then when you get to the dual highway, it's gonna be a right and a left, right? So those 2 lanes would flow into that. Coming in, I think they should build a double left right away, because this is the heaviest movement. And those left turns, that's gonna be the worst condition.
When you say heaviest movement, I just wanna make sure you reiterate upwards of 2,000 trucks a day plus local traffic.
Yeah, that's right.
Basil was 1,200 trucks a day at the height of that build out at 4 lanes. So
And then going this way, you get down here, it's gonna be, probably not even a right turn, just a through, lane and a left turn lane. So, it's not that much of a length. You know, we could make that requirement if that's what we wanna do.
And for me, I don't think it's the length so much as it is the time frame. In other words, like I look at the roads that we've had to go back and do that to, and I'll just take the Edgewood project, $12 million, right? If I remember correctly, just to move the water and sewer utilities as that project was like $780,000. And it was like, hey, why don't the city just eat that as part of the project? I was like, no, we can't do that. That's a utility, it's self-supporting. I don't wanna have this happen, have 200 acres worth of more development along the road who's gonna need all those appurtenances of infrastructure, and then go, now we gotta go back and move all this stuff. Cause now we realize that we've gotta make it wider, and we've gotta deal with new stormwater regs, and change the swale system and the curbs and all that. And to pretend that you're not gonna get into that 10 years from now, and that it's not gonna cost you twice as much is you're just kidding yourself.
And then you mentioned before about who else could pay into that. Here's undeveloped land right here that maybe they would pay back if we make the road 4 lanes now, that they would pay back to help ease that cost in the future. Pay back to the developer of this.
And just, to me, that's the smart thing to do.
And what about the designated right-of-way for the continuation?
I would, we've gotten in problems in the past where it was just shown as 2 lines on a drawing. It needs to be dedicated, and so that it's basically ours to accept. We don't want to pay for it in the future. We want it to be very specific on the plating as to what it says, but we want it to be dedicated, an offer of dedication to the city.
Now, Kristen, would that be 4 lanes or 2?
Whatever the width of the dedication would be required to match that of the lower portion of Southern Boulevard that already is. No different than, and nobody really realizes it because you drive on the southern portion of Eastern Boulevard all the time and you wonder why that bridge is so wide. It's because it's designed for 4 lanes in the future.
Right.
We did that one half right, you know what I mean? Like we already said, hey, and so I think for here you have to say it's gonna have to be as wide as whatever that lower portion is so that they're equal, or equally able to commit to the lane width at the end of the day. I don't foresee Southern Boulevard, at least in my lifetime, being more than 2 lanes. If it does get, this northern portion gets built anyway, but I think at some point, you're gonna want that.
But you don't have any concerns about letting this piece go, or do you?
I don't have any concerns of letting those things go because I think that they're difficult to accomplish anyway. My concern is that other portion.
Second lane.
If you're gonna allow that to happen, and you're gonna forgo what you said you needed, then you gotta get what you need now. In other words, we did that based on a completely different concept of how that land was gonna develop over time.
Yeah.
I think we get what we need now based on how we know the land is being proposed to develop now.
Right. I don't disagree with Kristen. I'm fine with requiring 4 lanes from Edgewood over to Dual. I'm fine with helping in any way that we can to help accomplish that. It may be, maybe partaking the payback at some point, but I believe that if you don't do it now, Kristen's right, you're gonna pay 10 times as much 20 years from now to accomplish that.
Okay. So that road, Paul Smith and then the road out to the dual highway is essential for this development to happen.
Mhm.
So I think they need to do some sort of a MOU or developer's agreement that this body would approve that basically lays out the stipulations of what that's gonna look like. And then what's the trigger? Like, does that road have to be built by the time they get occupancy? Does it have to be under construction? We have to figure all those things out, but I think there has to be triggers in that to make sure that they're fulfilling their end of the deal. I think this body would have to approve that agreement.
I would definitely think it needs to be done by the time they get occupancy.
That's what we were thinking.
I mean, you know,
And I think if the state highway plays ball with us, which I know is always the concern,
Sure.
as long as they play ball with us, we should be able to make that happen.
Yeah, time frame, so, I got you. Yeah.
Do you want me to say that you're right
also? Does it feel good?
I whispered it's gonna snow when he said.
I know, I was like,
don't
did you say,
disagree
I think
with
my heart
Kristen.
stopped a second, I was like, did Roger say that Kristen was right?
Yes, he
I'll
did.
say
I
you're
agree
right
with Kristen.
also.
I agree with Kristen.
You're right.
Sitting off of course,
To who? You?
make comments like that.
I'll sit over here.
Scoot on over. So I guess for Fred's benefit, we've talked about just creating it as basically a 4-lane road from Edgewood Drive up to the dual highway, as being a requirement of this development. And for them, they would forego the part from Edgewood to Howe. You think that'll work for your group?
I think it's reasonable. My client is hoping to buy the rest of that. And the part of Paul Smith that's already there is super elevated, the right side as you're heading south. It looks like it was meant to almost be 4 lanes down the road. And so they would really just be constructing 2 more lanes to make it a 4-lane.
At the same time,
At
right,
the
as
same time.
opposed to, right.
And then 4 lanes out the dual highway, so,
2 more lanes here and 4 lanes here.
yes.
It's really not bad.
Yeah.
It's, no, Kristen, I'm gonna agree with you. I think he's. The reason that we're here
Someone
today-
please write this on the calendar.
That's enough.
The reason that I am here today really is to forego the part that really probably could never be built anyhow.
Right, right.
Because there's been new buildings since the 2008 comp plan. The United Building, the bank building, that just cut off that intersection so it could come straight across, and the apartment building, and it would just kill the Dunkin' Donuts, because they have a right in, right out. Well, that would have to go. There's no doubt in my mind that mayor and council would have to use eminent domain to get the properties they need to put that in. It's just not needed. The part that you're talking about makes reasonable sense.
Okay, cool.
And the part of Southern Boulevard, while it doesn't make sense to build it right now, because like everybody said, it may not happen in our lifetime, that's a sad thing to say. I hate to think that we're that old, but it's true. It may not happen in our lifetime, probably won't. But the right-of-way dedication of 90, or I think that's what was on there, but even if it's 120, we'll dedicate it, we'll continue to mow it. We're not gonna build anything there. The purpose of it was put it there and plan to keep it safe. And if you want to dedicate a right-of-way, right as part of the platting, no problem, really.
And I don't think that I don't think a developer should be, and I don't know if this is applicable or not, but I hear you talking about the development in Funkstown, the Funkstown annexed and the Brain. I don't think that simply because you build in or outside of a single jurisdiction, you get exemption from being responsible to contribute to that, to the degree that we could create that type of process. In other words, if you're outside of the city, I want it to be that the city, or let's say, you create that, and developer says, well, I want something in return for having to make that investment that benefits, these future 3 or 4 properties. There has to be a way where, let's say you aren't the person that buys it, let's say somebody else, let's say annex it into Funkstown, and go, well, heck with your road, we're just gonna connect to it, we're not paying you a dime.
What road are you talking about?
The extension.
Yeah, well, that has nothing to do with Funkstown, the Paul Smith Boulevard extension?
I think he's talking about these farms in here
Oh.
connecting.
Okay.
Right. What I'm saying is you shouldn't be able, if you're gonna create that, you shouldn't be able to find a way out of it. Nobody should get like a free pass to say, I'm just gonna connect and, you can take the investment that you made in pound sand, we're gonna connect to it anyway.
So you're talking about whoever develops that blank field right there, whoever develops that should have to pay a portion of Paul Smith Boulevard?
I'm saying that if they're gonna make that connection, they should be contributing to that investment. Because that's the whole purpose that we're front-loading it.
Yeah.
I think these farms in here, there is some interest in them connecting to this road eventually because they get to that full intersection. Because what they have in here is mostly right in and right outs up here at the dual highway.
Like, there's gotta be a way the city, no different than we do water and sewer, and let's take, what's that, green whatever, the water and sewer system where it was a closed system that we built, and then we eventually took it over, whatever, but you couldn't connect to it. So all I'm saying is, there's gotta be a way that you can put something on the plat that says this is limited access, connection point, and, 10 years from now, if you wanna connect it, we may waive that moniker on that plat, if you wanna pay the freight to connect.
That's the way Hager's Crossing is. There's a fee that's paid to the
That's
state.
right.
Everybody that develops out there has to pay that
Yeah,
fee
there's
like
people
that.
way smarter than me that can figure that
Yeah.
part out.
But I would think, not that I know who or when or what's gonna happen on that open field to the right, to the south of Emmett Road, but they would have to put the bridge in across the floodplain. And so I think their burden is gonna be high enough, yes. So I think if this developer that's doing warehouse 1 and 2 widens this to 4 lanes and makes that 4 lanes, and this is gonna be a big number. I mean, that was $6 million as a redo. Now, this is brand new, but this is gonna be millions of dollars also. I think if this developer does this, I don't think he's looking to try to get reimbursed here, because whoever does this is gonna be expensive, and he's gonna get 0 return.
Does he own both those right and left yellow fields right at your hand?
Well, whoever, this property goes all the way to Emmett right here, but he doesn't own this barn.
What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
does your owner slash developer that is doing this warehouse 1 and 2, do they have the properties on the right, which are left of your, yes, those
Not
two
yet.
right there?
Not yet.
And what
They
I'm
have-
saying is, they should pay to connect. Those
Our
are
developer's
those
gonna
two
build it.
immediate properties.
Our developer's gonna build it. He's
Okay.
gonna build it.
I understand
He's
that.
gonna buy the right of way. He's trying to buy this too, but that's not finalized. It may or may not happen. But without getting the right of way, this doesn't happen at all. So he's negotiating with them. Once we tie down, is it gonna be A or B or
Okay.
C? Once
I
we
got
tie
it.
that down, then they're gonna finalize the right of way, and they're either gonna sell him all this, or he's gonna just buy the right of way.
I got it.
What you may want is the right of way kind of already planned here, but in a way that's foolish, because we don't know, this property doesn't come out to Heaven Road, did you know that? So who knows where it's gonna really access, so it's, you're driving blindly by saying, well, let's plan this road right in here. But I think this developer has enough of a burden just to connect over to here. Does that make sense?
So
So,
we're good on.
The motion.
Yeah, 'cause I'm
Yeah.
getting, All right, cool.
I mean, should that be a condition of your motion, or should maybe just the motion say there'll be a developers agreement that'll spell out those details to
Yes,
follow?
developers agreement to spell
Maybe.
the details.
I think that should probably.
I
be
think
that
that's
as a motion.
best, because who knows what all the details are gonna be yet.
Right.
thank you guys.
Thank you. Yeah. That was quick.
I was locked out, I couldn't get,
I saw you were calling me, I didn't know.
wow.
City
Thank you all.
administrator? Yeah.
My only comment, because Scott isn't here, so I'll keep it short and sweet, is just a reminder, it is National Night Out. Everybody please come out if you can to Fairgrounds Park and enjoy a nice evening out with the family. Beautiful weather.
Keisha.
No comment.
Kristen?
Sorry.
I don't have any comments this evening.
Chair?
Of course. I'm sure Madam Mayor will touch on this in her comments, but this Saturday will be our cleanup day. And I want to acknowledge some emails and communication I received about recycling efforts for next time. So some folks reached out and said, next time, make sure we have like dedicated recycle bins, or even artwork that people have used plastic caps to create something fancy with it. So next time, let's think about recycling. That's all.
Thank you.
Bob?
Nope.
So I just have two quick things. Want to congratulate the skate park task force for a big victory, getting additional funding from the county today. So that was, just the community's support and that collaborative effort is, just really exciting to watch, that when a group of people want something to happen, and like the amount of people that showed up today to the commissioners meeting and showed their support, and it's going to be just a phenomenal addition to the city and for the entire county. And secondly, the Discovery Station had a 25-year ribbon cutting, 25 years in operation on Sunday, and while that is not, it was a great event very, very highly attended, and it was super motivational. But one of the things that Brittany Wedd had said in her speech, which I hung on every word, it was a beautiful speech, was the fact that they were developing things in the Discovery Station that were inclusive. And when I say inclusive, they're like including the Hispanic community, and they're including the hearing impaired, and they're including the visually impaired, and trying to develop, you know, exhibits to make sure that everyone is going to be able to participate. And during MML, I attended an inclusivity and diversity training, you know, to make sure that our city was doing that. And I think that we should probably take a look at making sure that our materials are in Spanish, that maybe some of our signs are in Spanish, and really making sure that the things that we're doing are inclusive of all. And I think that it's something that we should probably think about in the future in order to be able to make sure that, you know, we're paying attention to those things. So maybe in our packets, you know, things online, you know, just different ways that we can, you know, really take a look at making sure that we involve and include all. So I thought that was something that we should talk about in the future.
Agreed.
I like that.
Thank you. I too just wanted to give a shout out to the Skateboard Task Force, although I have renamed them the Skateboard Mafia. Because they have showed up over the last week or two. And I heard they sent close to 200 or 300 emails to the Board of County Commissioners, and there's just a ton of support, so it's been awesome to watch. I do have a request for a letter of support to DHCD for the Dome and Black Heritage Museum. Are you guys okay with sending this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last two things, I wanted to congratulate Colleen Johnson and everyone else who was involved with the Freedom Fest on Saturday. It was absolutely incredible in University Plaza. I was there for a couple hours, went back. I had my 13-year-old daughter and her friend with me. They absolutely loved it. Just an amazing group of people and artists, and it was very well done. So congratulations. Let's do more of that here. And lastly, like Councilmember Burnett said, Saturday we're doing the Community Cleanup Day. We have an announcement out about it today. We're going to continue one each day, just reminding everyone. And if you have a student, you can get student service learning hours. So we have contact information on all of our websites and Facebooks and all that stuff, and we're looking forward to a good Saturday morning. So with that, everyone, I'll see you at National Night Out at 6 o'clock.